diehard college football fan? Well, it's your lucky day. Join special WSN guests like Spencer Raxter, Flannel Sam, and more every Saturday. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Saturdays and tune in live from 8:30 to 10 a.m.
And welcome to the first ever For the Love of College Football show live right here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thank you for everybody that's popping in right now on YouTube and everybody that's all on the other social platforms. X, we can no longer call it Twitter. We got X, we got Instagram, we got all that good stuff. My name is Stick. I'm going to be sitting in this chair today. The man to my left needs no introduction. His flannel says it all. This is Flannel Sam.
Since Lucas Klotz isn't here, I will do it for him. It is a beautiful day. I am reunited with the great Sam Stick Day. Two Sams on a desk talking about college football. It is the most wonderful time of the year. Man, I just cannot wait to get this season started. It's been a long summer.
The season started last night.
Absolutely.
We're going to get into that. Michigan
Yeah, we
State
are.
and Central. But speaking of Michigan State, we got one man rocking a Michigan State t-shirt, which is driving Flannel Sam insane already this morning. Mr. Anson Wells. Welcome, Anson.
It's great to be here with Sam Squared.
Yeah,
Hey.
Sam
Sam Squared on a Saturday.
And then, of course, we got our people in the booth. We got to show them off. Who do we want to start? Flannel, I'll let you introduce everybody.
All right, we've got Parker Brown in the TD booth. Look on the
How's it
ones
going?
and twos.
With an LSU shirt.
With an LSU
Yep.
shirt.
All right.
Being
I
a
don't know
little
if I
different
like that.
today.
I don't know if I like that. And we've got Nick running the ones and twos on the soundboard. Yeah, I think he's
Let's
actually
go. College
in a-
football is back, boys. Let's get it.
in a Baylor shirt. In a Baylor shirt of all things.
It's just a fun shirt. I'm
Is
not
that for
a
the
big
ladies
Baylor
Baylor basketball team?
fan.
It's okay, man. It's all right.
Big Brittany Griner fan.
Josh
right?
Gordon, baby. Josh
Huge
Gordon.
Brittany Griner fan.
She's back.
Glad she's back. Glad she's safe. All right, well, let's get into it. I mean, we're going to discuss Michigan State last night. We're going to discuss Michigan because they got a game coming up today, and that's what this show is all about. And plus, we also got a special surprise for something that has been invading your timeline for about a month now. We are going to power rank the sorority dance videos from all these stupid colleges that are putting those out. So stick around for that. That's coming up in the second hour of the show. But let's get into it. I mean, let's talk about a preview of some of today's best games. I sent out a list. Sam, do you agree with that list? Do you think those were the biggest games of today?
Probably of today. If we also want to include the biggest game of all weekend, LSU at Florida State, that is tomorrow night. That's obviously the biggest game, the only top 10 matchup of the week. I believe the only top 25 matchup of the week. And you know what all three of those teams have in common? One, they are both top 10. Two, they have dark horse Heisman candidates at quarterback, Jaden Daniels for LSU and Jordan Travis for Florida State. And three, they have two of the best defensive players in all of the country. LSU, Harold Perkins, Florida State, Jared Verse, two top 5 picks in their respective drafts. At least that's my projection so far. And whoever wins that game, they have the inside track to maybe be that fourth college football playoff team. So that's the one I personally am most excited about.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about our college football playoff predictions
Ooh.
later, too. Anson, let's get into the first game on the list that I put out for today. You were talking about tomorrow. I'm
Sure.
talking about today, Saturday.
All right.
And that's why we're doing For the Love of College Football on Saturday. But Colorado versus TCU. Last time we saw TCU, they were putting a foot to ass against Michigan. So that's a fun matchup. And then Colorado, Coach Prime.
Yes,
Anson,
sir.
you interested in seeing Coach Prime?
He's my favorite. We were just talking about him the other day. I'm pretty jacked about that game to see what he can bring from Florida out west, if he can continue that winning. And, you know, I'm a Horned Frogs fan now.
Are you?
Y'all know that. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. Absolutely.
Because of that beatdown on Michigan, you became a
Absolutely.
TCU fan?
Absolutely.
Now, this is one thing that's going to be interesting about this show. Diehard Michigan State, diehard Michigan. I don't give a damn, right? I want both teams to play hard.
Sure.
That's all I want. But to watch you two go back and forth and to watch you gain love for a team that beat up on your team, how does that make you feel, Flannel Sam?
Well, how was bowl season last year? Oh, everyone was on the couch just like you were. That's like
Wait,
you were.
how many bowl games did you win?
Oh, okay.
We were in the college football playoff. And for
But
the record,
did you win?
No, but really, are you taking the moral high road right now?
No,
5-7.
You went down the moral low road already to start it, all right? So y'all didn't win a bowl game just like we did.
Oh, so it's the exact same, Anson, right? It's the exact same. Oh my God! You know, we're gonna get into it later.
We're 5 minutes into the show and Sam's about to blow his lid.
And for the record, and I've said it many, many, many times, that was one of the most disappointing losses I've ever experienced as a fan with Michigan. It was not good enough. They got upset.
There's a long list of disappointing losses for you guys, though. You're able to rank it?
Oh my goodness.
All right, let's talk about Coach Prime. What are y'all looking out of Coach Prime today with Colorado versus TCU? Do you think Coach Prime and all his antics, totally clearing out all of Colorado, bringing in a new team, do you think that's going to pay off for them?
Well, first of all, there was nothing really to clear out because Colorado was a one-win team last year. So
Fair enough.
So this idea that it was any sort of malicious thing that Coach Prime did, that was a little bit crazy because Colorado was terrible. We'll see how they look in their first year. He obviously brought over his son, Shedeur Sanders, the former Jackson State quarterback, a very, very talented guy. And they also brought in one of the best players in all of college football, Travis Hunter, who's a damn good DB. And he also played wide receiver and just one of the most dynamic players you will see. The cupboard is still a little bit bare besides that. I think this year they might struggle a bit, but Colorado, I think, is on a greater trajectory than, of course, they were before. And we will see how TCU looks. I will say this, though. Coach Prime is getting a lot of attention and love for somebody who hasn't done all that much as a coach. I get it, Jackson State. That's a very, very good accomplishment having them the way that they were. But we shall see. I think if I'm TCU, I want to put the foot to ass to Colorado today. If I'm TCU, but TCU has their own issues. We'll see how they react to being in the college football playoff, obviously playing in the national championship game after beating Michigan. But they lost a lot of talent as well. It'll be a very, very interesting. There's a lot of unknown, I think, with those two teams. So that's why it's so great opening week. Yeah.
Can TCU repeat what they did last year? Can Coach Prime be what Prime is supposed to be? Because the guy doesn't lose, right? I mean, he's a winner. Everywhere he's gone, he's a winner. So it's going to be cool to see if he can turn Colorado into a winning program again.
And all he really has to do is stay competitive in that game. If they can take a team that had one win to a team that can stay in a game with a national championship finalist, that's all that whole state's looking for at this point.
Yeah, Deion Sanders, a funny thing about him, and you guys remember this being older than me, he literally flipped the rivalry between the Cowboys and the 49ers in the mid-90s. Like when he was with the Cowboys, they won a Super Bowl. He goes to the 49ers, they win a Super Bowl. So we'll see how Deion Sanders acclimates himself to Colorado. But the good news is he can't be any worse than the last guy. There's no chance of that. Even just bringing in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, they're already better.
All right.
Primetime's going to succeed out there. It's just a matter of time.
Well, moving on to the next big game today, and like I said, we're going to get to Michigan State coming up in the next segment, but the next big game, Virginia at number 12, Tennessee.
Ooh.
And why I think this game is so interesting is a guy you're kind of familiar with.
Yeah.
Starting quarterback for Tennessee, Mr. Joe Milton.
Joe Milton.
When he was coming to Michigan, he was the next Cam Newton, 6'5", rocket arm. He was Jim Harbaugh's final answer to the quarterback puzzle that he'd been missing, and wah, wah, wah. Do you think Joe Milton will have a rebirth in Tennessee?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, is Michigan suffering right now? Is the loss of Joe Milton really any big deal? Is the fact that he
No,
flamed
but
out of
then just
Michigan-
don't tell me he's going to be Cam Newton. That's all I care about. Like, if they would have treated Joe Milton like Joe Blow and he just shows up and leaves and transfers. But you told me, I'll pull a Neil Rule right now. I was told that he was going to be Cam Newton.
Oh, man.
He was not even close to Cam Newton.
So Michigan is the only school that has
This is not a personal attack, Sam. This is just facts. Did they oversell Joe Milton to me?
Of course they did.
Okay.
He wasn't good at Michigan. I do think there's a chance that he has a renaissance at Tennessee in the Josh Heupel offense. But Tennessee as a whole, there's a lot of question marks as well. They lost Hendon Hooker, the Detroit Lions. Thank you, by the way. They lost Jalen Hyatt, and they lost Cedric Tillman,
Hyatt's
their two
the
best
man.
wide.
I like Hyatt.
Absolutely. So
I'm a Tillman guy.
Hey, but the bottom line is they were both two of the better receivers in college football last year, and now Tennessee doesn't have them. So it's definitely going to be an adjustment for Joe Milton in that offense. I think he will be very, very good. I know he wasn't very good at Michigan, but sometimes you just need a change of scenery.
Yeah, listen, we were talking before the show. These are 18 and 19, 20-year-old kids, right? Like, change of environment, those simple things really can propel somebody. You know, if they get comfortable, they get in the right system, I can understand that. But, man, I remember writing articles for WoodwardSports.com way, like, when we first started, like, Joe Milton's the next guy. This is what I'm being told. Anson, how you feeling about the number 12 Tennessee Volunteers?
I got to agree with you because every time I go to Ann Arbor, I am looking for a change of scenery. So I think that's going to be great for Tennessee. I think it's going to be great for Tennessee and Joe.
I love how we can't even get through any other game without a Michigan State slight being thrown out there. And then shout out to everybody in the WoodwardSports.com chat right now. Another big game today. Ohio State.
Yeah.
Is it really a big game, though? This is part of the reason why college football early on is you get 2 or 3 good games, but the rest of them are just absolute beatdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they play at Indiana. It's a Big Ten matchup, so obviously they can't overlook them, but still, Ohio State should win by 40, 50 points.
Yeah.
But there's some question marks with them as well. They have some talent, particularly at the wide receiver position with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka coming back. They got some good defensive pieces, but they did lose C.J. Stroud and Paris Johnson. I'm sure Lucas Klotz, I've seen him in the chat, is just basically popping bottles that they lost C.J. Stroud. But most people would say that going from C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord, that there's going to be an adjustment. So we shall see. But it just seems like, I mean, it's at Indiana. That's the thing. There aren't a ton of great games this year. I expect a beatdown, but I'll be interested to see what they look like.
Anson?
Indiana's always weird, but
They are weird.
They're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. I don't see that being a close game at all.
Yeah.
I'm surprised about this spread being 30. Does that surprise you guys at all? OSU at Indiana, like being a little bit closer than expected. Sam's 40 to 50 point blowout. I feel like that's easy points if it's just 30.
Yeah, I think it's.
It seems
I'm taking the over, and I'm taking Ohio State on everything.
Yeah, week one, the spreads, they just are a little more conservative typically.
Well, you can't set
just
them. You
don't know
what
who
the
people are.
Like once again, you have an 18-year-old coming straight out of high school.
Yeah.
You don't know who the hell he's going to be in college, right?
Yeah.
Like these recruiting classes, 5-star, 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 and then they end up getting drafted. Oh, he was only a 2-star, and he got drafted in the first round. It's like these recruiting classes are weird.
Bet the under, baby. Week one, bet the under.
Always bet the under?
I mean, it's a pretty safe bet. People they're just not in the flow of the system yet. Their offenses and their defenses, but especially offensive game plans are a little more conservative. I like the under usually week one in college football.
All right, moving on to the last game we're going to highlight before we talk about the local teams, West Virginia and number 7 Penn State. Penn State, sneaky this year,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I think a lot of people aren't giving them credit, but I also think there's a lot of people that are giving them too much credit. Like they're kind of in this love or hate space right now. And once again, we're going to see what they are this season. But I don't trust the Nittany Lions. I don't. And I know that's probably one of the only, between Ohio State and Penn State, those are really only the 2 real games on Michigan's schedule this year. Michigan State, sorry, Anson, sorry. But Penn State, they have a chance to be a really good team this year.
To me, this is the most talented Penn State I've seen, certainly since they had Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And
KJ Hamler.
Yes, I am one of the people.
Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Hey, he was a damn good player. Micah Parsons was also sprinkled in there. I think he was after Saquon Barkley, though. But anywho, I am one of those people that is actually very, very big on Penn State this year. Just look at the talent that they have. When you look at pure talent, they're right up there with Michigan, Ohio State, even maybe Alabama, dare I say, because I think Alabama, they lost some guys. They've got one of the best running back duos in the country, maybe even the second best after Corum and Edwards. They have a damn good linebacker in Abdul Carter. They have a damn good cornerback in King, and they have Chop Robinson as an edge rusher and one of the best offensive linemen in the country. The only question mark with them is always James Franklin. And they're obviously bringing in a new quarterback in Drew Aller, who I think will be much better than Sean Clifford, because Sean Clifford was mid as hell. But the only question with Penn State is James Franklin. That's every time I say that Penn State is going to be good, people just say, like, do you trust James Franklin?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
Jesse Adams says the problem is James Franklin sucks in big games.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
No, he's basically, he makes some of the dumbest coaching decisions I've ever seen. But the funny thing about James Franklin is, fun fact, he was pretty damn good at Vanderbilt. He got them winning, which is a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, well, Rich Rod had a team winning before he came to Michigan, too.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
And speaking of the team that faced today, yeah, full circle.
So sometimes you can do that at smaller schools, but when you step up to the big leagues, it's a little different ballgame.
I mean, and to be fair, Penn State, it's not like they're a team that consistently misses bowl games. They win 9 games. They win 10 games. It's just that they always have so much talent because James Franklin, he can recruit like all hell, but in-game coaching, that matters, especially in close games against big opponents. And usually Penn State comes up on the short end of the stick in those big games.
All right. Well,
No
coming
pun
up
intended.
next, Anson, I want to hear a lot from you about the game last night, Michigan State versus Central Michigan, the in-state rivalry, we'll call it.
1-0.
1-0. Hey, that is all that matters. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Plus, U of M preview, college football predictions, Harbaugh versus Tucker, and so much more. It is for the love of college football right here on Woodward Sports. We'll be right back.
Come hang with the Woodward Sports crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays to join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel. Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
And welcome back for the love of college football right here on the Woodward Sports Network. It's our very first show, but this is going to be going on every Saturday morning starting at 8:30. So while you're getting up, getting ready for the game day, make sure you pop us on and stream us, listen to us, do whatever you have to do to get Woodward Sports in your life. My name is Stick. That is Flannel Sam. Anson Wells is on the couch right now and wearing a Michigan State shirt. Michigan State started the season 1-0 last night. Would you call that an impressive victory, though? Because I was watching that game. I was sitting, watching the first quarter, watching the second quarter, and I believe midway through the second quarter, each team had about 40 yards passing. The offense on both sides of the ball looked awful. If I'm a Michigan State fan, and Anson, you're a Michigan State fan, what did you take away from that game yesterday? Do you think coming out the gate, stubbing their toe like they did against Central? Now, they did get the win, but they didn't beat them down like they were supposed to. Like, if that happened to Ohio State today, I think we'd be having a harsh conversation about Ohio State. How do you feel about Michigan State right now after that win last night?
I mean, it's a tale of two halves. They won one, they lost one. I kind of feel like that's going to be how the season is for the Spartans. They look like a 500 team. They've got some intrigue in their offense. We don't really know what their defense is going to be capable of this year. Noah Kim looked terrible in the first half, but then he kind of brought it back together in the second half. I don't see this team winning more than 6 games. They'd be lucky to win 7. But again, years like this, the Spartans really only need to win 1 game. And I know that Flannel hates to hear that. I know that a lot of Spartan fans hate to hear that. I know Wolverine fans really, really hate to hear that. But as a Spartan alumni and as a fan, Spartans just know the years where we're just looking for 1 game. And that is absolutely this season. You know, Tuck's in a tough spot. I mean, if they lose 7 games this year, what's going to happen to that guy? It's a question mark year for the Spartans. It's not one that I'm terribly excited for. I'm looking forward to October, obviously. But it's a good way to start things off. Looking so bad in the first half, but being able to come out in the second half and really change things around. They look like a completely different team in the second half. That was a confidence game for them. You got to remember, this is a team that has had no good publicity since the tunnel last year. And when you have, guys coming in that nobody's really excited about and there's no true identity to this team, they took great steps in the second half yesterday to start that identity, to to create some confidence. And that was really what they had to do coming out of that game yesterday, was have some confidence. And I was worried at halftime. It looked really, really bad. But it's a win. It's 1-0, and the Spartans are on that track of a positive direction to start the season, which is really what they needed yesterday.
Flannel Sam, as a resident Michigan State hater, the haterade pouring out of your veins. Give me an honest assessment of last night's game for Michigan State.
All right, I will be
Hater.
You know what? I will be very honest in this one. During the first half, it was looking pretty damn rough for Michigan State, at least at first. They couldn't get anything going offensively. I thought that Noah Kim was about to play his way onto the bench.
Yep.
They couldn't get the run game going too much, besides for a few decent runs from that new transfer back from UConn. But their defense, to their credit, it did keep them in the game. And I know Central Michigan had that one big drive for a touchdown to go up 7-3, but Michigan State, even though they allowed Central Michigan to get into the red zone early on in the game, where Central Michigan could have maybe even taken command, dare I say, they did stop them. And that kind of leads me to my point that I think Michigan State's front seven can actually be sneaky okay with guys like Jacoby Windman and Simeon Barrow and Cal Halliday. I think they have some talent. It's just their secondary. I know Michigan State fans have lamented about that for a long time, and I think it will still be a weakness. But to Michigan State's credit, I think when Central Michigan got that touchdown, they just collectively, as a team, just threw some water on their faces, and were like, what the hell? We got we're not going to lose to Central freaking Michigan. They opened up the offense a little bit. Noah Kim made a couple of very, very nice throws. A couple of Michigan State players made a couple of really nice catches in the end zone, particularly that one to put them up 24-7, and then Malik Carr got one later to put him up 31-7, and that was pretty much all she wrote.
And some drops that could have been even bigger.
Oh,
you know?
Malik Carr, it was looking pretty rough for a while,
Yeah,
but he did
was.
make up for it. Nathan Carter is that running back, that transfer from UConn. I thought if you look at the box score, you think that offense actually played pretty well. But if you actually watch the game, it was, I'm sure, Anson, there were a lot of nervous moments where you are on red alert. Like, is this offense actually going to be even worse than last year's? Because last year's was pretty bad at times, and I thought the play calling was atrocious. And maybe, just maybe, Jay Johnson saved his job as offensive coordinator last night if they can continue that second half momentum going into Richmond and then Washington and then beyond.
Those first 25 minutes were rough.
Yeah.
That was brutal football, man.
Brutal.
And what drives me nuts about that is you literally have the whole offseason to prepare, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know Central Michigan is on your schedule. You have tape on them. You know what you're going to do. And you come in and you lay that egg in the first
I
half.
thought I was watching
What are we
Lutheran
doing?
North versus Lutheran East in the Metro Conference. It was terrible football in the first half, man. It was nearly non-watchable. 28 straight points. It's a building game for the Spartans, and obviously a pretty easy one next week. So they've got to get those 3 wins before before they start getting into next month. Got to have those 3.
Yeah, they can definitely do it. When I'm looking at the stats from last night, surprisingly, the rushing defense for Michigan State was not what I thought it would be against Central. Like, you're a Big Ten team. You should be able to beat up on Central Michigan University, especially in the trenches, and not allow 123-yard rushing. But let's give Central some credit, too, right? The old saying, those guys are on scholarship too.
Yeah.
They came out and they established themselves in that first half and showed what they can be as well as a football team. So let's not just talk about Michigan State. You know, a lot of people in the state graduated from Central too. I partied my ass off up at Central. I had a great time at Central. So if you're a Chippewa fan, what are you taking away from that game?
Well, you're taking away that you played Michigan State tough for a half and made it really, really difficult on them. I mean, the thing about this Central Michigan team is I don't think they're going to be very good. It's not like Dan Lefevre and Antonio Brown are walking through that door. This is probably going to be a team that finishes near the bottom in the MAC conference, at least from my perspective. So the fact that they were able to even keep it close, I guess it's a moral victory, but that passing offense is just brutal. I mean, that first half, like you said, Stick, it was a football eyesore. But to Michigan State's credit, they did open it up in the second half when they had to, but still, just not really a fun football game to watch for the majority of it, I would say.
Yeah, I had a rough time watching that first half. But it's only hopefully going to get better for Michigan State. Mel Tucker, that's something we're going to discuss, the Harbaugh-Mel Tucker thing going on right now, just the trajectory of both of them. But I'm just going to preview that by saying I thought Mel Tucker fumbled the ball this offseason. The way he talked about his team, what he's been putting out there to the media, telling people they're never going to be good enough. And I get it, we're never going to be good enough to take people for granted. In sentiment, that's awesome. But the way he said it was just like, yeah, we're never going to be good enough. As a player, you hear that. This guy's sitting in my living room telling me we're going to compete for national championships. We're going to do all this. You're going to come to Michigan State. And now I got to sit in that locker room and understand that, wait, you don't believe that we can win because we don't spend money on NIL? You don't believe that we're ever going to be good enough? I wonder how different that message is from when he's recruiting to now when they're actually starting the season. And that would scare me if I'm a Michigan State fan. Anson, when you hear that stuff come out of your coach's mouth, what does it feel like?
I got to say, I think all of Spartan Nation is worried because you see this guy who just grabbed all of our imaginations
Tuck
2
coming.
years ago.
Take
Tuck
him to
coming.
the deep end.
I mean, it might be Tuck going soon.
You
know?
think so already?
I mean, there's a serious contract there, first and foremost.
Yeah.
So let's not get crazy. But he has gone backwards, both on the field in production, but also on camera. I mean, this is a guy that has made a lot of Spartans question what's going on, on in his head and on in East Lansing. This year's really going to be a telltale, sign for what the future is for this program, but especially that man. I don't like a lot of the sound bites that I've heard from him.
Yeah.
You kind of, as a Spartan, you know that you're always going to kind of be behind the eight ball in this state. I mean, just the history of trying to get into the Big Ten and trying to exist in the Big Ten and trying to recruit against these teams. We always know that we're always going to be the underdog, but vocalizing that the way that he has, I think his intention was not, it ended up being completely different what the result was. I mean, he wanted to galvanize us and embrace that underdog spirit, and that's not what I think he conveyed to us. It was like we're always going to be short instead of we're going to have to rise above. And that's what we saw 2 years ago. And this year, it just seems like he's allowing last year to be the reality for State at this point.
Yeah, sorry, the girl just came in here and stole the blind thing. Look how washed out I am now. Let's get that blind back in here. What's going on?
Yeah, I think what Mel Tucker in his comments said were the complete opposite of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell instilling the confidence to their players. And to see that from a college coach who they recruited, those are your guys that you brought in. I think it's just completely unacceptable from a college coach to say that because those are your guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a complete reversal of what we saw and heard from Tuck his first year. He was so inspiring. He galvanized all of Spartan Nation. He also had a great running back. And now that things aren't going as easily as they were before, his energy has changed. And, it's interesting when you bring up Dan and Brad because their energies never changed. Their optimism, their leadership has always been forward and upwards. And what I'm seeing from Tuck right now is frustration. You can hold frustration at home with your wife. You can be frustrated in the locker room. You can't be frustrated on camera.
Yeah. Especially when you're trying to recruit and especially when you're trying to lay the groundwork. I mean, we're a long way away from that cigar picture in the limo right now.
The consistency,
a long way away.
Yeah, the consistency, I really like what you said. The consistency of being on camera, what you're seeing compared to the guy that came to your house and talked to your parents, sat on your couch, drinking your Kool-Aid to talk you into coming to East Lansing. Those two things don't jive for me right now, and it's a worry.
All right, well, that's straight from the mouth of a Michigan State guy right there, and I would be concerned, too, if that was my team and that was my coach.
I like Tuck. I don't want Tuck going.
Yeah.
I want Tuck staying.
I mean, literally, he did change the culture for a blip on the radar.
A great year.
He wasn't able to sustain it, though, and that's the problem.
Iowa.
But sustained winning has happened
Purdue.
in Ann Arbor for the past couple years, and we're going to talk about the Michigan game coming up next. Kickoff is at noon. We are live on For the Love of College Football right here on the Woodward Sports Network. We'll be right back with some U of M coverage.
Have you ever argued with your little brother? How about some random guy you're stuck in a room with for an hour? Flannel Sam and Spencer Raxter are at each other's throats. One Spartan alumni and one Walmart Wolverine are locked in a room with nowhere to hide. You're welcome. Whether it's go blue or go green, you can go to woodwardsports.com for all the action. Coming soon to a device near you. Winners, losers, pushes and draws, over-unders, prop bets, futures and spreads. Are you sick and tired of your picks being losers? Do you want to learn how to bet like a champion? Well, Woodward Sports searched the globe for the most dangerous man with a bet slip in his hand and gave him a show. Coming soon to Woodward Sports. Tune in every weekend as we introduce the greatest gambler to ever walk the earth.
Hi, I'm Booner, and I don't lose.
Welcome back for the love of college football right here on the Woodward Sports Network. And now is the time for Flannel Sam to shine. He has been waiting how many months for this? It is kickoff day. 3 hours away. You are going to see Jim Harbaugh run out of that tunnel with a bunch of dudes in maize and blue, and they are going to go take on a little league team and absolutely crush them, right, Sam?
Woo. I got to call my wife. I'm about ready to go right now.
I was wondering why the desk was rising.
But no, this is a very exciting day. It's one of my favorite days of the entire year, especially during a season where Michigan's expectations are so high. I think a lot of us Michigan fans, I hope all Michigan fans, have a bitter taste in their mouth from the way the season ended last year. A game in which Michigan all Michigan fans expected to win. I think Michigan expected to win that game, and then they lost to TCU in a lot of ways because of a couple of pick sixes thrown by J.J. McCarthy and a couple of empty trips that basically ended at the TCU goal line. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. But this is the year where they make up for it. And this is the year where they go to the college football playoff and they finish the job. Yes. Hey, wait. Who? Let me explain. Let me tell you something. Oh man, that's very, very, very rich coming from you, Anson. But anywho,
Don't get sidetracked. Stay focused, Anson. Let this man stay focused on the University of Michigan right now.
Wolverines get knocked off course. I'm sorry.
Oh man, you're all right. You know, we'll argue a little bit more later.
He's been waiting for this diatribe for like what? Like
Don't let me
6
knock
months.
you off course, pal.
Yeah, let him do his
Let
thing.
him
This
cook.
is his Michigan.
That's what Spartans do, though, baby.
This is his ode
Let's
to
go.
Michigan. His ode to Jim
Don't
Harbaugh.
choke. It's your moment. Let's go.
All right, so Michigan, they are the one of two teams to make each of the last two college football playoffs. The other one being Georgia, who's obviously won 2 national championships in a row. And Michigan has gotten knocked out in the first round both times, one of them to Georgia. It's just, when you look at what they've done, when you look at how they've shifted the paradigm in the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry to the point where I would say the Big Ten runs through Ann Arbor at this point, they're 100% favored to three-peat as Big Ten champions. They are going to go in, I believe, to the Big House in the last game of the regular season against Ohio State. They're going to be favored to win that game for the first time in many, many years because they certainly weren't favored in 2021.
You think they're going to be favored even though Ohio State's ranked higher right now?
I think they're going to be favored.
Okay.
It's a home game. They've and the thing about, and you guys have all seen that from watching the last couple of years, Ohio State have had 2 really damn good teams in a row. Michigan has just been their kryptonite. Michigan has manhandled them at the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively, and that has been the main difference in the games. This Michigan team, to me, is the most talented team that they are returning since 1997, since the national championship years, the Charles Woodson, Brian Greasy, Ty Streets, Jeremy Tooman, all those, and those guys, those years. Because Michigan, of all of the teams who are either in the college football playoff or Alabama, they are the only one returning their quarterback. Ohio State lost their quarterback. Alabama lost Bryce Young. Georgia lost their quarterback, and TCU lost their quarterback. Michigan is actually returning J.J. McCarthy. And I think at every single position for Michigan State, save for maybe wide receiver, they have at least 1 or 2 guys who are going to be first-team All-Big Ten. Their running back duo, we all know that. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, the best in the country. Their wide receivers are a little bit of a question mark, so we'll pass by them for now. Tight end Colston Loveland. You saw how he looked at the end of the year, catching a big touchdown at Ohio State and absolutely mossing a couple of Purdue defensive backs in that Big Ten championship game. Colston Loveland is the most talented Michigan tight end they've had, certainly since Jake Butt, maybe ever. And we all know they're returning the defending two-time Joe Moore Award offensive line while returning two starters, two guys who have been all Big Ten, Zach Zinner and Trevor Keegan, while also bringing in an Arizona State transfer, Ladarius Henderson, and a Stanford transfer center in Drake Nugent. That offensive line is going to keep humming. And how about that defense?
Hold on. Before we move on to the defense,
Yes.
I got a question about that offensive line.
Okay.
Weren't they great last year?
They were.
Then why don't you run the ball on 4th and 1 from the goal line?
That's a question only.
Why? Just tell me why.
That is a question that only God, Jim Harbaugh, and whoever the hell can understand at this
Don't
point.
put
Or
those
should-
two in the same sentence.
I'm not in
please.
Jim
That's not what I'm
Harbaugh.
saying.
Come on.
He is a savior. He is a
That's not what
savior.
I'm implying, Anson. You know what I'm talking about. Basically, what that
Maybe
means.
not
is
God, but Jesus. Right?
if he wins a natty this year.
If you
then
went
I might-
Oh, man.
But that's yeah, that was terrible. That was just a lot of puckering. And why did you hand it off to a converted linebacker at the 1-inch line and have him fumble? But anywho, we're not
Yeah.
going to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, that's the past. But I just
That's
wanted
best.
to bring that up
Yes.
because everybody talks about this Michigan offensive line, about how great they are, how award-winning they are. But when you had to put your sack on the table, you didn't do it with your offensive line. And it's great to have a weapon, but if you don't use it, what the hell's the point of even having it?
Well, that's fair because in the biggest moment they didn't use it when they really needed to. Although I'd say for most of the game they performed pretty well, and certainly for the whole season they performed very well. But those two empty trips that basically culminated at the TCU goal line were just inexcusable. That was one of the differences in the game. I think if they just punch those in, they win that game, and I think that is very, very fair.
And yet Michigan fan continues to excuse Jim Harbaugh.
No, but
Well, we're gonna get into Jim Harbaugh because I am a Harbaugh fan. I stood by Harbaugh when everybody wanted him fired because I think Michigan kind of gets ahead of their skis sometimes and doesn't understand that. Hey, this is the best you've had in a long time. Shut the hell up. You know, and I feel like a lot of Michigan fans were taking Jim Harbaugh for granted after that. What was it, 2 and 5 years? Well, we gotta get him out of here. The COVID year. And
I
all
was
that.
one of them.
Yeah, and I don't like people like you for that reason. But we'll talk about Harbaugh and all that.
Damn.
Continue on the defensive side of the ball, Sam. Let's go.
yes, and then you've got that defensive line and that edge rushers. You got Chris Jenkins, who is probably going to be a first-round draft pick after this year. You got sophomore Mason Graham, who made hella plays last year. You got Coastal Carolina transfer Josiah Stewart, who had 12.5 sacks as a freshman. Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell. That defensive line, I think, will be about as good as it was last year. Although I hope one of them really steps up to become the star. I think that will be the two defensive linemen in Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham. And that linebacking core, is this the 2000 Ravens but college version? You've got Ernest Hausman, one of the top transfers coming in from Nebraska, number 4 transfer. You've got Junior Colson, an NFL player, and you've got Michael Barrett, one of the stalwarts who has been there since 2019. And that secondary, led by the guy who may be one of their best overall players, certainly probably their best NFL prospect on the team right now. We all know about Will Johnson and how great that he is. Will Johnson is going to either win the Thorpe Award this year or next year. He's certainly going to vie for it this year, and when he comes out, he will be a top 10 pick corner. He is going to be a better prospect than Devon Witherspoon was, who was a number 5 overall pick. And then you got Mike Sandristil. We all remember Mike Sandristil, a converted wide receiver. Did you see the plays that he made last year? He came right into that secondary and fit in like a glove. My only question is, why the hell was he ever a wide receiver? He should have been a defensive player for his whole time there. He is going to come back in a way that this season can be considered a success.
And you got something? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, this is the most stacked Michigan roster Jim Harbaugh has ever had. So in my eyes, it comes down to J.J. McCarthy and can he take that next step, because that TCU game brought out the worst in him. And if he can be an elite quarterback like he was brought here to be, Michigan really does have a chance to go all the way and win that natty.
Yeah, the J.J. McCarthy thing is a whole other topic that we can get into. Anson, I asked Flannel Sam to give me an honest assessment about Michigan State. I am going to ask the same of you, sir. Even though you sit there in a Michigan State shirt, give me an honest assessment of what Michigan is bringing into this season.
So the wet dream's over there?
Go
ahead.
Man,
Flannel was basking
I'm
in the
impressed.
glory.
I'm impressed. You did bask in the glory. And I mean, when you look at this lineup, I mean, on the offensive side, on the defensive side, at pretty much every position, they've got a top 10 or even a top 5 player. This is their year to do it. But you got two major factors that are going to get in their way. Jim Harbaugh and JJ. And we saw that last year. We're going to see it again this year. Michigan gets in their own way, and I can't wait for it to happen again. This amazing roster, the only greatness that you're going to get out of it is in the draft for the NFL next year. And you guys will be excited to watch all of your alumni go into the NFL and get drafted in the first round.
But isn't that kind of the point of college, to get
Sure.
people ready for the next level of their career?
But the point of college, that's exactly the point of college.
Okay.
But the point
Because I hate
for
when people
corn and
knock
blue
programs
fans,
like that. They only put out pros. Well, yeah, that's why I'm going there.
every summer I just hear corn and blue fans just, I think, and then it's always something different. Now, maybe it happens and there's a national championship in the state of Michigan again for the first time in nearly 30 years, but I think we're going to see the same thing that we see always from Michigan, and that's going to be falling short. The ego of Jim Harbaugh will overshadow the greatness of this team once again, and JJ will falter on the major stage, and I can't wait to watch that.
I mean, hey, that's a fair assessment. It could happen, and it has happened. You know, Flannel, me and you kind of went back and forth last year on the difference between JJ and Kate McNamara.
An ocean stick.
Except the end result is the same.
Except what J.J. McCarthy actually brought to the team was way more than Kate McNamara. What he actually did in those games was
But what they accomplished was the same, correct?
So if you're quarterback wins guy over here, my favorite quarterback wins guy, you only had a good game if you win, and you only have a bad game if you lose.
No, it's you take the team as far as you can take the team. Cade McNamara took the team as far as J.J. McCarthy has taken the team. That's just facts.
How many touchdowns did Cade McNamara
I don't
count
care.
for in the Ohio
I
State
don't
game?
care.
0. How many
I
did
don't
J.J. McCarthy
care.
count for? 4.
I don't care.
What about the Big Ten championship game? J.J. McCarthy threw 3, Cade McNamara 1.
I don't care.
In the college football playoff history, J.J. McCarthy 4, Cade McNamara 0, including the Georgia
That's
game in
all
which J.J. McCarthy
fantastic. That's
threw the
all
touchdown pass.
fantastic, and that's all fluff. It's nice to put on your little trading card on the back. I threw touchdowns. But when you can't take the team to the next level, which is what, once again, to quote Neil Rule, I was told J.J. McCarthy was going to take this team to the next level. He did not. He took them to the same level, which is fine because that's a very high level. I'm not going to say that he didn't accomplish anything, but he didn't accomplish anything that Cade McNamara didn't. Period.
But
End of story.
No, it's more complicated than that, but I will just say this. This idea that J.J. McCarthy was bad last year or anything or disappointing, yeah, he didn't have to do a whole lot in the earlier part of the schedule because they were able to run the ball and pretty much manhandle teams, but he was very, very good. He had the game of his life at Ohio State. He had a very, very good game in the Big Ten Championship against Purdue, and I will say this, he threw 2 pick sixes, and that is 100% inexcusable. It was a big reason they lost that game, but I will argue that he did a lot in bringing them back. Not enough, but still.
No, I'm not saying J.J. McCarthy's a bad quarterback.
Sure.
I'm just not saying that Cade McNamara is as bad as you're saying he is either. And it's weird to me how you could be a Michigan fan and, like, despise a guy that took you to a place where you would have killed to go to 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But now it's like, yeah, he's mid. We got JJ, who does the same thing, got us the same place, but this is our savior. I don't get that.
He's fast.
He is fast.
Cade McNamara is a significantly worse Michigan quarterback than Shea Patterson. I will die on that hill.
Than Shea Patterson?
Absolutely.
I mean, Shea Patterson was the #1 overall pick by
USFL.
the USFL. I mean, speaking of putting out
Neither of them
pro
are-
products.
Deep cut.
Neither of them are NFL quarterbacks, I will say that.
Yeah,
but J.J.
that's-
McCarthy is.
You think so?
Yeah, 100%.
More than Joe Milton. Who was sold more, JJ or Joe Milton?
Well, probably JJ, but still, I think they're both NFL quarterbacks just
Okay.
because of their talent. And I think Joe Milton does have a big year for the record.
Well, we're going to move on to college football predictions, but I kind of want to stay on Michigan right now because there's another debate that we were kind of having before the show about the running back position right now at the University of Michigan. We are going to cover that and more Michigan football. Plus, you're going to want to see what we do in the second hour. I'm sure you've seen these in your timeline. the sorority dance videos. We are going to power rank them for you right here on For the Love of College Football on the Woodward Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to the Love of College Football. My name is Stick. This is a show that is brand new here on the Woodward Sports Network, so thank you for everybody that's a part of it right now, getting involved in the chat, getting involved in all those polls. And we are less than 3 hours away for kickoff in Ann Arbor. Flannel Sam is on the desk with me. Anson is in the Maz chair. That's what we officially call it around here, right?
Yes,
the Maz chair. No matter who
100%.
sits in that, that's the Maz chair.
All right.
Yep. So you're sitting in the chair of a legend,
It's
Anson.
comfy.
It is comfy. Those are very comfy chairs. We were talking about Michigan. You gave a little bit of a preview. Anson gave what he thinks is going to happen this season. Got into the quarterback conversation. There's another battle going on this team, and I think it may be a disservice to what Michigan can bring to the table this year because Blake Corum is coming back. He got injured. He didn't declare for the NFL draft. He wants to get his draft status better, which you cannot blame the kid for that, right? He was a Heisman candidate or potential Heisman candidate midway through last year. He was having a great season. He went down. But there's a guy that plays for Michigan out of West Bloomfield High School named Donovan Edwards, who I thought last year was a better running back than Cade. I thought he proved that he's a better running back than Cade, proved that he's a better ball catcher than Cade. I mean, what was that one game? He had 7 catches, 120 yards or something like that.
He had one game in 2021 where he was just, I think it was against Maryland. Where he was
unstoppable. Unstoppable. And me and you were kind of going back and forth because I think Cade is going to be almost a detriment to this team.
You're insane.
Because he's going to take carries away from Donovan Edwards, who is an absolute stud. And you think I'm insane for saying that? Okay,
that Blake Corum in any way is going to be a detriment to this team. I think that's a little bit too far. Maybe insane. I heard it and kind of had a split-second reaction. You're not insane for that take because Donovan Edwards is certainly a more talented back. I think he's a much better NFL prospect. I'd even argue that when you look at next year's draft, he might be looked at in a similar light that Bijan Robinson was looked at this year, or even, let me bring it closer to home. I think Donovan Edwards is a better running back prospect and will be than Jahmyr Gibbs is. And Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted at number 12 by the Detroit Lions. He's certainly a better runner.
I mean, you put Donovan Edwards on Alabama, he's probably looking pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, and even at Michigan, he should thrive this year because Michigan has a damn good offensive line. He did thrive last year with the best game of his life coming at Ohio State, which is that is some currency in Michigan circles. And Donovan Edwards, he is the better back. He's certainly the more explosive. He's certainly more talented in terms of catching passes out of the backfield. It's not even a competition. I just don't like this dismissal of Blake Corum like he's going to be a hindrance to this team. You have to remember, he was probably going to at least be a Heisman finalist if he didn't get hurt. Yeah. And every single Big Ten game he played last year, including the one in which he did get hurt, he had over 100 yards rushing. That guy, in terms of following his blocks, in terms of getting 5-6 yards and falling forward almost every time he carries the ball, I had never seen really anything like it at Michigan, at least in a long time, since maybe like the days of Mike Hart or Anthony Thomas or the like of those, some of the best in Michigan history. So I think that they will both be used as a tandem and they will help the team win. I think that Blake Corum actually might get more carries, but when it comes to being an offensive weapon, Donovan Edwards, who at times last year was even J.J. McCarthy's favorite target, he'll get utilized in many different ways. I think they will both thrive. I think they will both have 1,000-yard years, and maybe even one of them makes it to New York.
Parker, let's put up a poll in the chat right now. Who's going to have a better year, Edwards or Corum? It does feel a little dirty saying that Blake Corum will be a hindrance because he is a talented running back, and I'm not going to discredit him. But when you have a dynamic player like a Donovan Edwards and you even take away 5-6 touches a game from him, I can't see that being better. I can't see giving Donovan Edwards the ball being better than giving Blake Corum the ball in almost any situation. So that's what I mean by almost pulling back the team, because you're limiting your supreme athlete to maybe 10 less carries. And also, is Blake going to be happy with those 10 carries if he's only getting those?
Let me add
and what
to
does
that.
it do to your locker room? Like, him coming back, I think, has created a weird logjam at running back. I think Harbaugh had some good planning going in with his recruiting. All right, Corum's going to leave. We're going to hand it off to Edwards. Then we're going to go to the next guy 2 years later. But now with Corum staying, you can't do that because you have to honor Blake Corum for what he did.
Well, first and foremost, I want to add to that. There's absolutely nothing with having two amazing top 10 tandem backs in your backfield for a season. I mean, that's only going to be a plus for Michigan. I do see it being a possible detriment in the fact that today, Michigan should be throwing the ball. We all know they can run the ball.
Yeah, they're not going to, though.
Of course. And they're not going to this season. They're going to stomp on half of the Big Ten, and they're going to use Corum to do it. And when they get into a game with an SEC team at the end of the year, when you have to be playing NFL-style football, and you've been giving half or more of your carries to Corum, and you need Edwards for those games, the experience that he's going to be cheated out of by giving all of those touches to Corum is where I believe that the Wolverines will be hindered. Because they will be able to manhandle, like he said, most teams that they're going to face this year. When the adversity comes, that's when you need a primed Edwards, a guy who's had all of those situations, who's had the ball at the end of the big games, the close games throughout the season. And I think Corum's going to be that guy that they're letting grind out at the end of the games, that they're going to be letting just run over opponents, trying to push them to the 200-yard mark. And really what the Wolverines need to do to be able to win a national championship is throw the ball consistently and safely, and to be able to truly utilize probably the best running back in college right now.
That's one thing I get a little weary about with Michigan and people that talk about Michigan is last year that they were winning the wrong way. They're not passing the ball enough. They're only beating up on teams that they can run the ball on. And that's such a weird critique, right? Because Harbaugh was kicking the hell out of people last year by running the ball up their throat every single game. And then it was like, well, we don't know what the passing game looks like. What's going to happen when they get in a big game? And that ended up being an actual real concern.
Yeah.
So do you think they're going to open up J.J. McCarthy a little early on this season, maybe show off the passing game so he can get more acclimated? So by the time you reach the college football playoffs and you're going up against a TCU or a Georgia or a Texas or a USC, that he's more comfortable in the pocket? Or do you think that just comes with year-to-year growth?
I think there's a little bit of both. Like I said before, I think J.J. McCarthy got a lot of valuable experience in the game at Ohio State, in which they did have to open up the offense a little bit more. I know a lot of people forget, and I know people who watch the game don't forget, the game was started by J.J. McCarthy throwing touchdown passes, having touchdown runs. It was closed Mariano Rivera style by Donovan Edwards with those 2 long touchdown runs. He got some experience doing that, and even though with the TCU game, those 2 pick sixes, terrible, but they did open up the offense a bit at the end because they had no choice, because they had to come back. And J.J. McCarthy did bring them back, and they scored 45 points. Ultimately, that was not enough. The thing, though, is when Michigan is playing those teams that they should beat, like Eastern Carolina, for example, today, or even Rutgers in their Big Ten opener, Jim Harbaugh, he wants to play like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He wants to just dominate you at the line of scrimmage, and they're not going to have to open it up.
So what are you learning from that as a team, right? Like if I'm going up against a Little League team, I know I can blow them off the ball every time. But if I know I got a quarterback with a questionable arm, why not throw more? Like, I get it. And it's weird to knock someone for the way they win. And I'm happy that Michigan is actually at that elite level. Like, it's actually a compliment to Jim Harbaugh. Oh, you can only win this way. Well, it's like, hey, shut the hell up. I'm winning. Y'all used to lose to Appalachian State. Like, give me some.
At times, I was hoping that they would do that. Of course, I was happy they were winning, but still, J.J. McCarthy, for the vast majority of the season, he'd make a couple of good throws, but he was kind of the game manager. Let Corum eat, let Donovan Edwards eat, and that worked. That worked all the way up until the college football playoff. but obviously they lost in the college football playoff. But
Yeah.
it's what would Jim Harbaugh do? Jim Harbaugh is a very, very good football coach, one of the better ones in college football, and he's won the same way for a very, very long time. So it will take a little bit to maybe shake him of those habits, because
And he's also lost the same way for a very long time.
and that is also fair, because Jim Harbaugh, I always call him the best football coach to have no championships.
Yep.
Because he didn't win a Super Bowl, he's never won a national championship, and at some point it has to count against you for not winning the big one. Parker, I saw you had your hand up. What do you got?
This is that I think with them only doing the run game and not passing, avoiding that kind of option that they have on offense, that's going to keep them at that ceiling of being a first-round exit in the playoffs, in my opinion. I mean, if they're not going to expand their offense, they're going to be a Big Ten champions, but after that, they're not going to make any progress.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You can beat up on the Big Ten doing it this way, but once you step into the field with a Georgia, or once you go against a Nick Saban, and while I'm saying this, I'm honestly tipping my cap to a Nick Saban and to a Kirby Smart and those guys, because they seem like they're able to find that balance, right?
Yep.
They're able to get their running back prime. They're able to get their quarterback ready for those big games. And they're also not afraid to pivot in big games like you saw Saban do with Tua back in the day. I mean, and look at what Jalen Hurts turned out to be.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see how these coaches navigate all these young egos too, right? Because all these guys are 5-star. They're the best players at their high school. Then it's like the hot chick that finally goes to Michigan State, right? Like you were the hot chick in Okemos, right? But now you're at Michigan State, where every other hot chick around the state wound up. And now you're maybe mid-tier. And that's what I feel happens to Michigan sometimes. They're the hot chick in the Big Ten.
My apologies to everybody in Okemos.
I'm not apologizing to anybody in Okemos. The guys that live there know what the hell I'm talking about. There may be like one hot chick in Okemos, maybe, of all time. I'm not talking about like now. I'm talking about in the history of that entire city. And she went to Michigan State and found out real quick. She's a 10 in Okemos. She's a 7 in East Lansing. And that's how I feel Jim Harbaugh is once he gets into these college football playoffs.
You're not wrong, bro.
He's
You're
a
not
10
wrong.
in Ann Arbor, but when he gets to the Natty, he's a 7.
That's unfortunately been part of the history of Michigan football. Even with Jim Harbaugh, he got to the college football playoff the last 2 years. They've lost in the first round both times. The one against Georgia, I will say they were happy to be there. I'm not going to knock him for that one, but last year, terrible. And even going back to Bo Schembechler, 2-8 in Rose Bowls. He could win the Big Ten like no other, but when it got to the Rose Bowl, he probably cost himself some prestige and maybe even a natty or two, because they could not win Rose Bowls.
And that is exactly why I never understood any Michigan fan wanting Jim Harbaugh gone. Like, y'all got to remember what you actually are, not what you think you are. And as a fan who is not a Michigan State fan, not a Michigan fan, I'm a fan of football, I'm a fan of things in this state. I root for everything in this state. Michigan thinks too highly of themselves sometimes, which is okay. You got to believe in yourself to be what you want to be. I understand that. But for them to like shun Jim Harbaugh, and it was like, listen, y'all came off Brady Hoke, y'all came off Rich Rod, and you're going to bitch about a guy who took a team to a Super Bowl, about a guy who hasn't performed to what you think. You're no longer a laughingstock. You no longer have to go into this East Carolina game worried about your team losing. You know this is going to be a beatdown. Now it's just how much of a beatdown. And that's taking it to the next level, and that's where Michigan should be. But to think that they're the most elite program ever and that Jim Harbaugh should be winning national championship after national championship, Michigan never was that, and they aren't that now.
Delusion runs deep in the corn and blue, brother. We know this.
Doesn't Michigan State have more football national championships than Michigan?
Well, since they joined the Big Ten in 1952, the big national championships are 6 for Michigan State and 1 for Michigan.
And that's all well and good. I mean, you guys dominated the 50s and 60s, and I'm not saying that with any snark.
You guys dominated during World War I and World War II when you wore leather caps.
Yeah, and no black people played.
97 was
Yeah, there was
a
like
pretty good
18 teams in the whole country.
Like 97 didn't happen, but anywho, like
No, 97 was a great.
Well, yeah, when you guys shared the championship, it was great.
But that's before they could actually settle it. I think
you,
Michigan
Listen,
actually
Chuck
Michigan
Woodson,
won that
baby.
championship outright. I don't care what
Well,
Tennessee says.
and actually,
or
that
whatever.
was it Oklahoma they shared it with?
it was Nebraska.
Or Nebraska. Nebraska had a game against Missouri where they caught a ball in the end zone where the guy kicked it up, caught it with his 2 feet and kicked it up in the air, that they shouldn't have won that. Michigan was the national champion.
Well, yeah,
I mean, Charles Woodson, greatest college player possibly ever.
Absolutely. And the point is, I always try to make, is that they did everything that they could possibly do. It was the way the system worked back then. And I think to answer your question really quick, to respond to the whole Harbaugh thing, obviously Michigan fans are all on the Harbaugh train right now because the last couple of years, he finally beat Ohio State. He finally won Big Tens. I think my big hang-up with him prior to the 2021 season is no matter how good that they were, they would consistently get their head taken off by Ohio State every single year. And that's just, no Michigan coach ever really went through that, at least when it comes to Ohio State.
Yeah, but it takes time, and that's what I kept trying to tell people with Jim Harbaugh. Like, listen, if you fire Jim Harbaugh, who's going to be better? And nobody could give me a real answer. And it's real easy to point to a problem. It's real hard to point to the solution.
100%.
So I got a question. If he wins the national championship this year, are we going to be talking about Harbaugh leaving again? Is that going to be an every offseason thing?
Yeah. Anytime a coach comes from the NFL and goes back to the NCAA, you're going to always talk about them.
Are you tired of that yet, Sam?
I have an answer to that. If Michigan wins the national championship, I don't care what Jim Harbaugh does. I'm not asking for multiple national championships.
Just give me one.
I just want one so badly.
I understand that.
And then you can walk off into the sunset as the no doubt best football coach in school history. If he wins a natty, 100%.
He probably should leave if he wins one.
I mean, I wouldn't even care. Just give me that natty.
Ride out on top.
So bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's what he wanted to do when he got to the program. Obviously, Bo Schembechler was a big mentor of his. He wanted to restore it, and I think he has to this point.
Sure.
We got more college football coverage coming up. It is the first Saturday of college football, and For the Love of College Football is live right here on Woodward Sports. And coming up next, you've seen them on your timeline. You've watched them, or at least I've watched every single one of them. The sorority girls in every college. Since we're talking about college, we got to talk about these sorority videos where they're all dancing. We will critique them and do some play-by-play and award the best coming up next right here on Woodward Sports. Stay tuned.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com. Have you ever argued with your little brother? How about some random guy you're stuck in a room with for an hour? Flannel Sam and Spencer Raxter are at each other's throats. One Spartan alumni and one Walmart Wolverine are locked in a room with nowhere to hide. You're welcome. Whether it's go blue or go green, you can go to woodwardsports.com for all the action. Coming soon to a device near you.
Oh, sorry, we're back. My bad. Welcome back to For the Love of College Football, and this is going to be a fun segment. It's college. We want to talk about all things college, and those sorority girls partying. Their little videos where you put like one hot chick in front and 10,000 girls behind them waving their little cell phones in the air. I thought we'd go through some of them and do a little power ranking, if you will, or give them a rating. We'll go around the room. Parker, since you got them all loaded up, what's the first one you want us to watch? And obviously we can't use the sound because of licensing and all that, but we can still watch these girls dance and talk about it.
So it is Tri Delta from the University of, it's UIUC.
Okay. These are the Tri Delts. Okay. All pink. Look at them go. What are you thinking right now, Flannel Sam?
I mean, it actually, the coordination and everything actually looks like they're actually objectively pretty good when it comes to dancing. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot worse, and it could be a lot worse. So this one, I think that one's going to be hard to beat.
Can you replay that one more time for us, Parker?
They look terrible. There's 5 girls up front dancing. The rest of them were all just jumping around.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're cute. I'll give you that.
You might actually be right.
And these are the Tri-Delts?
Yep, Tri-Delts from UIUC.
UIUC.
More like try last place.
Oh man, I just want to know who gets to decide who gets to be in front, like, and how long do they spend practicing this? And why don't we do this with Woodward Sports? Like, why don't we have Maz out in the front, Ermanni up there leading the charge, me, Braylon, and Anson standing in the back waving phones? I think we could pull that off, guys.
I'm in.
All right, who we got next?
All right, hold on. Let me pull up my list. We got UGA. Oh, it's Alpha Phi from MSU. Let me pull up that bit.
MSU. So some Michigan State
all
love.
for free?
Now,
or Alpha Phi?
I
All for
actually
free?
like this one. Oh no, this isn't the
wrong
Michigan
one.
State
Yeah,
one.
that's all for free right there. Also known as Alpha Phi.
So they only chose to have 3 girls up front because obviously the rest of them have no coordination.
And those 3 don't either. Well, and somebody just dethroned the last place team.
So we're gonna throw Alpha Phi in last place.
All for free is in last place
All
for
for
sure.
free. You know that sorority?
Well, yeah, Alpha Phi is all for free, and then like Gamma Phi Beta is Gamma Vibrata. You know, there's all those fun things.
See, at
so.
University of Detroit, where I went, there was the Tri-Sigs. We call them the Tri-Pigs.
Oh,
They're all just,
boy.
Listen, I didn't make this name up. I'm just repeating things I was
like the
told.
Omega Moos. Lambda, lambda, lambda.
And I'm sure they had nicknames for the fraternities, too. All right, what else we got, Parker?
All right, we got Zeta Tau Alpha from USC.
Ooh, they're gonna,
USC, here we
this
go.
one's already going to be.
Oh, God.
Started off.
Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
Is this our top dog right
Sliding
now?
right into first place.
Oh man!
I mean, you
gymnast.
start off with that. I like those outfits. I'm a big fan of those workout outfits.
I need to go to the gym more.
Yeah, and this remember, and this is all for a good cause. It says Pink Think for breast cancer awareness. This helps breast cancer, so don't think we're not supporting breast cancer right now. Oh yeah, look at that one in the front. All right, let's put them at the top. We need to save that
Easy.
video and
Easy.
replay it at the end of this segment.
All right, now we got Alpha Phi from MSU.
Oh, MSU. Now I like this.
They're already number one. Let's go. Number one.
Last place.
Now, let me just be real here. There's 3 of the best sororities in Michigan State, and that is one of them right there, for sure.
The one thing I did like about the Michigan State girls is at least they were a little creative and like started out with the girls like, hey, follow me and come watch all of my friends dance.
And they're not Cali girls, man. like they're holding their own though,
Those
right there.
girls are from Okemos, I'm telling you.
Only one of them.
Only one of them from Okemos.
Only one of them. Well, I'm gonna have to slide them into second.
Second, Michigan State in second.
Yeah, I can't put them over that USC performance.
All right, and what do we got? 1 or 2
All right.
more?
Yeah, we got. Hold on, let me pull this up. We got Delta Phi from NSU.
Now you can tell these girls are self-aware. Like that is the one thing I'll say about this video. These girls are self-aware. They're like, all right, let's cover up. Let's wear some baggy, silky stuff. We can't be out here in that skin-tight stuff. Like, this is this is your average girl. This is not the hot chicks up front.
Was this DK Delta Kappa? Did you say?
No, Hold on.
Yeah.
Delta Phi.
Delta
But
Phi.
I like that they
Kappa Delta from UT Austin.
UT Austin. Another all pink.
Cowgirls.
I'm seeing a theme.
But these
here.
girls can't dance, man. Like, my question is, when they're sitting around planning this, right? Who do they pick to be in front? Why do they pick them to be in front? And, like, is it just
There's-
like the girls that run the sorority?
For
Yeah, it's
sure.
probably
It's
that.
2 girls that insist we're up
Or
front.
is it like, Becky, you used to dance in high school. Why don't we put you up front? Can you coordinate something for us?
For sure.
Either way, these have been
For
flooding
sure.
my Instagram timeline. Is it for everybody else, or is
Dude,
it just me?
I was in a fraternity and I was seeing the same stuff, dude.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
I mean, it could be 2 things. One, because I watch every time they come across my timeline, and I watch them repeatedly every. That's probably why they keep populating my timeline.
The algorithm, buddy.
I'm a victim to the algorithm.
The algorithm.
But can we play back our winner and everybody give them a round of applause?
Well, let's-
Which
yeah.
one was that?
We're going USC.
The USC girls, the
USC.
pink, the Think Pink girls.
We're going
Gotcha.
Michigan State Alpha Phi. You're second place though.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. That bodysuit and that girl with the pink. My goodness.
On the left, up front.
Sure. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, they
All right,
killed
so
it.
the ZTA, Zeta Theta
Zeta
Alpha?
Tau
Is that
Alpha.
it? Zeta Theta Alpha?
Yeah.
See, I still know my Greek letters. So, yeah, congratulations to them. Since we're doing college football, we had to do some power rankings of those college videos.
Shout out to Alpha Phi for second place. Represent Michigan
Yeah,
State.
Michigan State. Good job. Good job getting involved in that. But we got more coming up next, including prop bets. We're going to give our game day predictions, plus a little insight of who we think is going to be in the college football playoffs. It is For the Love of College Football right here live on the Woodward Sports Network. We'll be right back. Shout out to those ladies.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Booner and Broder. Are you a diehard college football fan? Well, it's your lucky day. Join special WSN guests like Spencer Raxter, Flannel Sam, and more every Saturday. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Saturdays and tune in live from 8:30 to 10 a.m. Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back for the love of college football right here on the Woodward Sports Network. Sam, what are you doing over there every time we come back?
I don't know.
It's like his WWE entrance.
You're just off in a day.
That's just something I've developed during my time on the morning show.
Okay.
Just-
Hey, man, you're good at the trademarks.
I
You
appreciate it.
hammered the Flannel Sam thing, and maybe we can come back with this thing. I like it. Flannel Sam is here. Anson is here. We got Nick in the sound booth, and our man Parker in the TD booth. We were going through, we talked about Michigan, talked about Michigan State. Let's talk about some of the fun prop bets that are on the table for today, because that's one thing about college football is it's so wonky, some of these games, like you know who's going to win, so you can't bet the money line, right? We're not betting the money line on Michigan, but there could be some fun bets within there, like are you taking Blake Corum over 110 yards today?
That's actually a pretty good one.
Is that a prop bet that you're willing to take, Sam?
Yeah. Over.
Over 110
Yes,
for
yes.
Blake Corum?
Yes.
Even though we had the Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards conversation.
They're going to just – Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are going to just, like, gash them today. I think they're
400 yards between the two of them, man.
Hey, they almost –
You think so?
I don't know, but I see 300 for sure.
They almost got that against Penn State last year for the record. So
That is true.
yeah.
Here,
You
I'll
were
put
there.
a poll up.
I was, honestly, like, one of the best Michigan game experiences I ever had, and obviously it's probably self-explanatory, but when you go to a Michigan game with Braylon Edwards, it is next level.
I bet.
It is next. And, I just turned into Braylon's paparazzi at that game. Like, I was just taking pictures, capturing him being a star because he is. And it was amazing. Like, Discover had him out there signing autographs. Their college game days out there. Desmond's pointing to him, showing him love. We're walking up to the stadium, and we just hear, "Hey, Braylon!" You look back, it's freaking Michael Phelps, like, just hollering for Braylon. And you got this, this all-time champion, Olympian, just wanting to get Braylon's attention. And then, here's a funny part. You get all the guys showing love to Braylon, and then you get a security guard that's a little too big for his britches and won't let Braylon go walk the Lloyd Carr tunnel because they were just donning it. Yeah. So me and Braylon walk up to this thing. This is a great story, and it shows how much of a bigger man Braylon is, because some dumbass security guard tries to stop me. I'm going to berate him and let him know how stupid he is. Braylon was just like, all right, man, you know what? I'll get to the tunnel whenever I need to get to the tunnel. That was my old coach. I just wanted to walk in and snag a picture real quick, but you're being this way, I'm going to walk away. Braylon walks away, and 2 minutes after we do that, what happens? Michael Phelps hollers out his name. So let that just be a life lesson to everyone, because I took a life lesson out of that. Because if Braylon would have wasted his time yelling at that security guard and trying to prove he was Braylon Edwards, Michael Phelps would have walked up and saw Braylon arguing with a security guard.
Yeah.
And he would have been like, Braylon, you know? But instead, he walks out, sees Braylon signing a ton of autographs, and it's like, okay, that's my boy. And so just let that be a life lesson to everybody. Just because someone, I want to say below you because I hate using that term for anybody, but just because somebody has perceived power over you, don't fall into that BS. Yeah. Be above it like Braylon Edwards and go on and live your life, because that could have screwed up the whole day. It was a magical day. Michigan kicked the hell out of Penn State. You know, we're in the Michigan suite talking to Ono, the president of the university. Lamar Woodley's coming up and dapping up Braylon. Like, it was such an amazing day, and it could have been ruined by one dick security guard, but Braylon was a better man.
One of my favorite things about Braylon is his patience for Michigan State fans. Just the few times I've been around him, I'm embarrassed by my Spartan people, that some of the stuff that they yell at him and just, hey Braylon, go green. And it's like, dude, the guy's heard this so many times. But his patience and kindness for everyone is astounding, man. It must have been a fun day for you.
That is another takeaway when you are hanging out with Braylon, like all the idiot Michigan State fans like that walk by, go green! Like, so they can go home and tell their friends, I yelled go green at Braylon Edwards. It's just like, it doesn't matter. Right. So enough of our ode to Braylon, but this is a big day for him too. Start of Michigan football. I'm sure he's going to be going to several games this year.
Yeah, hopefully to East Lansing in October too.
I don't know. We were told not to if you're a Michigan fan, because East Lansing fans are going to throw batteries. They're going to try to beat people up. I was told it's a dangerous environment at Michigan State for Michigan fans at night. Is that true, Anson?
Don't leave any couches out on the street, and you guys should be fine. Although they have avoided the evening game in this matchup, this rivalry, for a long, long time. I mean, it'd probably be a little safer in Ann Arbor, but you guys are going to realize and learn what really East Lansing is like after dark. That's for sure. It's a whole different spot.
Oh, jeez.
And should Michigan fans be afraid?
No, but they better mind. They should mind their P's and Q's. Just come respectful, and you'll be fine. So,
but you said this game should be in Ann Arbor, and they wouldn't have to deal with those things. Why do you think there's such a difference between State fans and Michigan fans?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think that there's a huge difference because of the Walmart Wolverine factor. People that went to Michigan aren't that way towards State or towards Spartans.
It's
and
the
State
Flannel
sports.
Sams who didn't even have anything to do with the college.
It's honestly, Flannel Sam's super knowledgeable, and he's gracious about it. But there are just some people in the Wolverine world that, are just on straight attack, and they may have never even been to Ann Arbor in their life. And that's I think where a lot of people have that issue with Michigan fan. But Spartans get loose, man. That is a party school, no matter how high the academics have gotten over the last 20 years. And when it gets after dark, we've seen what happens when things don't go well in March. So fingers crossed, keep it together, keep it classy, East Lansing.
All right, let's get back on some of these prop bets for today. Michigan, 44.5 is the number. Are you taking the over?
Yeah, I'll take the over. They just have to. I think this is a game where they really just step on the throats early on and just blow Eastern Carolina out. I think their offense is going to be humming. I think Eastern Carolina will struggle to even get in double digits. They have to at this point. It's Michigan. Just step on their throats. Don't take this game lightly, and maybe play for Jim Harbaugh today, who is suspended for this game.
Oh, I can't believe we haven't even brought that up yet. The fake suspension.
Motivated assistance.
Like, that is one of the weirdest things. The NCAA suspends him, then they rescind the 4 games, and he's just like, you know what, I'm going to bow out of these first 3 games because we're playing sandbox teams. Like, this is such a show just for a show. Because at the end, he didn't do anything wrong, really, anyways. He buy someone a hamburger and lied about it? But he doesn't want to admit that he was lying, and the NCAA wants to slap his hands. When you got Ohio State kids, signing jersey, they've been recruiting, paying these kids for years. Harbaugh, the NIL can pay a kid $1 million, but Harbaugh can't buy him a damn hamburger. I mean,
it's so NCAA.
It's so weird how this has become Harbaugh versus the NCAA. And Harbaugh was like, okay, fine, I'll sit out the first 3 games.
It's about the only moment I've ever liked that, man.
I mean, but believe it or not, I'm not one of those people that was really outraged at the situation or outraged at the NCAA. It just is what it is.
Would you be if Ohio State was the first game of the season?
Yes.
Okay.
I got self-awareness.
Nice question.
Right.
It's because there's no excuse. It could be me coaching. It could be Parker Brown coaching. Michigan should still win the first 3 games, 100%.
Yes.
And hopefully after these 3 games are over, Michigan's 3-0. Hopefully they can put this whole situation behind them at this point. Just let it not be a hindrance to anything moving forward.
After that disappointing loss to TCU to end the season, I think Michigan comes out firing on all cylinders, and they easily surpass the over 44.5 for that prop.
Yeah, you wonder if there's going to be that hangover of motivation. Like, all right, TCU took it to us. Sorry, East Carolina. You're going to have to deal with this foot in your ass.
Yeah.
To pirate your asses.
Right. So, Anson, are you taking over 44.5 today?
No, I'm going under, man.
Under?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
What about you, Nick?
Definitely the over.
Parker, over, under?
I'm thinking over.
Over.
I think that's a little safer.
Yeah, I think so, too. I mean, Michigan should put up at least 52 today. they should.
ECU, baby.
Another prop bet that I really liked, Utah State 9.5 versus Iowa. I like this because, Iowa's not putting up points.
Right.
So if Utah State even puts up 17, they're most likely going to win by 10. Because Iowa's going to kick 2 field goals.
Well, I actually think Iowa covers in this game.
Okay.
Because Iowa, one thing that they have had, and the Lions are very thankful for that too, is good defensive players like Jack Campbell last year. They retained a couple this year, including Cooper DeJean. They're very, very talented defensive back. And I think Iowa, I'm not a Cade McNamara fan, as everybody knows that, but I think he is an upgrade over what Spencer Petras was. They do have Eric All. I think that Iowa wins something like 24-10.
24 to 10?
24 to 10.
Anson? 9.5?
Nope.
All right. Nick?
I like Iowa here to cover with McNamara and all really taking that offense to maybe
Michigan
20 points, maybe 20 points, but I think they'll hold them under 10.
All right, what about you, Parker?
I'm not going to take it on that. I think it's uncertain. Cade McNamara's new to that offense, and it's a lot of new things coming into Iowa, so I'm not really certain how I feel about that.
All right, another prop bet. I like this guy when he was in the Big Ten, Michael Penix. But then obviously he transferred school. Do you think he's going to throw for over 318.5 yards, Boise State versus Washington?
I do. I would take the over on that one, especially because Boise State, they're actually a pretty formidable opponent. I don't think it's just going to be get a big lead and then bleed the clock the rest of the game. And Michael Penix Jr., he is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I thought he was going to go to the NFL.
After year 1, right?
Yeah, shoot.
Right.
For what he did at Indiana, and, well, he was often injured, but that 2020 year was amazing. And even last year against...
He was the next Lamar Jackson.
Hey,
That's...
much better thrower, worse runner. But even, a much worse runner, especially after ACL injuries. But last year, he was great at Washington. He really had his coming out party. And they do also have one of the best wide receivers in the country to throw the football to. I just think this year, Michael Penix Jr., I predict that he is at New York as a Heisman finalist. And he starts it off with a big win against Boise State in which they make a statement. He passes for like 330, 3 touchdowns.
Anson, what do you think?
Under.
Ooh. 318 is a lot of yards.
It is.
Yeah, and if he does 318, he's still hitting the under.
And we all know Penix has the arm. He's got the target. They need a running game there. This is the same thing I'm talking about on the other side of Michigan. Michigan needs to work on their pass game week 1. These guys need to establish their run game if they want to go far this year. Under.
What about you, Nick?
Year 18 for Michael Penix. I think he gets the over for sure.
Year 18.
You're 18. It does feel like he's been in the NCAA. How long what is he, like a 7th year? Is he a doctor?
Right.
A lot of people go to school for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. What about you, Parker? What you thinking?
I'm thinking it's under. I mean, it's the first game of the year. You're not going to be all going on all cylinders. But I agree with Sam. If Caleb Williams does not repeat getting the Heisman this year, it will be Michael Penix Jr.
Caleb Williams is that dog.
Oh, my. He could repeat, though.
Yeah.
He really could.
Very easily.
Yeah.
And then a parlay, if you're looking at South Carolina, the money line plus the over at 64.5.
Ooh. Well, I would smash the over. Because especially with the overs, and you know what? I will actually take that parlay. I
think it's a good one.
Yeah, because even though North Carolina, they obviously have Drake May coming back, we have to remember they lost their best targets in Josh Downs and Antoine Green. The Lions, thank you again. And their defense is definitely questionable. And I'll tell you what, South Carolina, I know Spencer Rattler, a lot of people laugh at him, but he pretty much saved his perception as a viable quarterback with his performance against Tennessee last year, which he came out of nowhere, and he's still got a lot of talent, and I think the team around him is better. I will smash the over, and I will also say South Carolina.
What's crazy is I even forgot that guy was still playing.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago, everybody was, oh, he's going to be the Lions' next quarterback. He's going to be a first overall draft pick, and then he had to transfer schools.
To South Carolina.
You know how much money he made off of NIL to suck?
Yeah.
That's what I love about the NIL right now is it's still finding its like mid-level. Yep. A lot of these businesses are paying guys that end up sucking, and it's like, wait a minute, we can't pay $1 million to a guy that's going to transfer next year.
Right.
And eventually that water will find its level where they're, he's only making a couple $100,000, but it's still wild to me that there's quarterbacks in the NCAA that are making more than quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
that is bizarre to me. But Nick, what are you thinking?
I actually like North Carolina in this game for Drake May. I think he puts the team on his back and they get the win, so I'm not going to be riding with the parlay.
All right.
I'm not riding with the parlay. There's a lot of uncertainty on that. I need a week before I start thinking about parlays in college football.
Anson?
Week 1, under.
Under?
Absolutely.
You taking all the unders week 1, right?
Absolutely. There's too many teams that are figuring out what they're doing week 1. They're going to try and do stuff that they know they're not great at because they're playing not good teams. It's that week 1 conservative side for me in college always.
All right. Well, do you guys have any other prop bets you want to bring up? Those were just mine. Anything else striking you guys as interesting?
I want to talk about this trend of kids of former players. And there's 3 this year that I'm really excited about. Obviously, you talked about him earlier, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah.
The guy is a stud. Frank Gore Jr., though. This kid almost made it to the NFL while his dad was still playing there, right? And then Kamari Lassiter, who I was always a huge Kwame Lassiter fan. I'm curious to see what he can do in Georgia. And then the all-name team and just Kool-Aid McKinstry, man. I can't wait for him. He's a dog. I guess I'm curious what kind of players you guys are looking forward to seeing this year, and I'm really curious to hear who Sam thinks is going to win the Heisman Trophy this year.
All right, well, we can discuss some of that coming up next, plus our prediction for today's game. We're going to do it all here live on For the Love of College Football, right here on the Woodward Sports Network. College football is here. It's Saturday, baby. Go.
Have you ever argued with your little brother? How about some random guy you're stuck in a room with for an hour? Flannel Sam and Spencer Raxter are at each other's throats. One Spartan alumni and one Walmart Wolverine are locked in a room with nowhere to hide. You're welcome. Whether it's go blue or go green, you can go to woodwardsports.com for all the action. Coming soon to a device near you. Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune in to the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Welcome back to For the Love of College Football right here on the Woodward Sports Network. Thank you to everybody participating in the chat. We'll have those phone lines for you next week so we can take all your opinions, all your comments. You can come at Flannel Sam. You can go at Anson. You can come at me. Whatever you want to do, we're going to take those phone calls because we want to hear from you. But I want to talk about this conversation because 2 years ago, I think this is a completely different conversation than it is today. I want to talk about the trajectory of the head coaches for Michigan and Michigan State. Obviously, I'm talking about Jim Harbaugh. I'm talking about Mel Tucker. It's so weird that, 2 years ago, we would put them probably here, equal plane. He would say,
Shoot, I mean,
a Michigan fan, you were scared of what Mel was building, and you weren't sure of what Harbaugh was doing. So a couple years ago, we're right here.
100%.
Since then, Michigan has done nothing but ascend, and Michigan State, Tucker, in my eyes, has done nothing but descend. So the gap between them at this very moment is larger than I think it's ever been.
Yeah.
What do you see happening in the future with these two coaches? Do you still see Jim Harbaugh ascending? Do you see Mel Tucker still descending? And at what point do you give up on a Mel Tucker, Anson? That's something I want to throw your way. And at what point did you start believing in a Jim Harbaugh? Because I think there's some similarities between you two. You're feeling like you did for Tucker the way you were feeling about Harbaugh maybe year 1, 2, and 3.
It's not exactly, but I get the approximation because there were some question marks about Jim Harbaugh, especially after the 2020 season, which was the culmination of the disaster of, I wouldn't say Jim Harbaugh's tenure was a disaster up to that point, but I think it was disappointing, and 2020 most certainly was a disaster. But then, as we've talked about before, Jim Harbaugh in these last couple of years, he's had it humming at Michigan, pretty much the best they've been since the late 90s with that 97 national championship. I mean, they own the rivalry right now when it comes to Michigan and Ohio State. They own the Big Ten. The Big Ten runs through Ann Arbor. So at this point, I think Jim Harbaugh's trajectory is definitely up, and I believe he will win a national championship at Michigan. And if he does that, he is the best coach in school history. He's already the greatest, I think, football figure in the history of Michigan if you count his coaching and playing. But if he wins a national championship, I think there is no doubt about him as a coach. As far as Mel Tucker goes, I'll give the Michigan fan take on Mel Tucker. I found the whole Tuck Cummings stuff to be some of the most nauseating crap that I've ever seen in my life.
The deep end.
Oh, my goodness.
We're chopping wood.
I'm so glad you get to understand the nausea of being on the other side, because it's
you guys are
constant
like the
for the
Spider-Man meme
delusion
right now.
of Michigan.
You know what, Anson, I don't hate that, because Michigan, they were doing the whole who's got it better than us stuff when they weren't even going to the college football playoff.
Nobody!
Yeah, right. I mean, a lot of teams, more like 10 or 15 different programs at least. But to be fair, I think from the Michigan fans' perspective, maybe you disagree that Michigan has kind of stopped talking as much as they used to, and just kind of been more about business, at least to what they used to be. Maybe you disagree. Like I said, you disagree.
Do you remember what it was like after the tunnel?
And that we're just a year removed from that.
I mean, when you look at the history of Michigan as a program and their complete ability to put all of that aside to absolutely attack Michigan State, I mean, every year Michigan fan is like, oh, well, we're doing better about this. Honestly, the delusion of those statements right there is just completely perfect. My cousin is still naming his fantasy football teams Tuck Cumming because he's a Michigan fan 2 years later. And the funny thing is he won one less game in his third year than Harbaugh did in his third year, but yet he's still living rent-free in your guys' head. It's crazy.
No, you know what it is with Mel Tucker, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think Michigan State as a whole and Mel Tucker has gotten it way too easy for having a 5-7 bowl-less season after having 11 wins. I know that they were going to take a dip because they lost, I think, in a vacuum, the best player that they've ever had in school history, at least offensively for a year, in Kenneth Walker. You're going to take a dip, but they didn't even make a bowl game. And I personally think with Mel Tucker, there's a couple of different ways it can go. They can make if they make a bowl game, he stays. He's earned himself at least another year or two. If they can somehow win 7, 8, 9 games, then Mel Tucker's seat is no longer hot. But if they miss a bowl game again after all of that, after having that one great year and then missing one last year, if they do that again, I think Mel Tucker has to be fired. You can't do that. After all the hype, after all the Tuck coming, after that great season they had, after smoking cigars and taking pictures with cars and all that nonsense, you can't accept another bowl-less season. It's not that hard to make a bowl game. Go 500. That's all you got to do.
That is true. I'm with you on the bowl game thing. And, Anson, I'm curious for you because there was obviously a turning point for you with Harbaugh. What was that? That was like, okay, he is our coach.
I would say the 2021 Michigan-Ohio State game when they finally beat them.
When they finally beat Ohio State.
Yes.
That was enough to signify that this is our guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anson, for you, what's it going to take for Tuck to get back in those good graces?
Well, I mean, he's got to get into a bowl game, but if things go badly for him this year, his sound bites are going to determine his future. because he's already gone on TV and created questions and doubt for the whole fan base. And if things go poorly for us this year and he starts making some statements like that, he could be gone real quick. It could be tough going.
Yeah. It's interesting. And the trajectory of these coaches and the fan bases and how the bravado's gone back and forth. When trouble with the snap happened, I thought, like, this is what a rivalry should be. Yeah. Honestly, like, State was still holding on to that power position. Michigan, you could see, was clawing into that game and clawing into being that power position. State wasn't ready to give it up. And that game, I thought, oh, man, this is the birth of what's going to be one of the best stretches of rivalry I've seen in a long time between these two. So I thought both were going to be elite programs. Since then, it's gone complete opposite directions.
It's really sad that I didn't
It
know.
really is because
Well, no,
like
it's
I
really
said,
sad
I'm not a
that
Michigan fan. I'm not a Michigan State fan. I loved when both those teams were meeting undefeated, when the whole state was fighting with each other, because I love anarchy and I love chaos. Sitting back and watching you guys go at it when all I get to do is go watch good football was the best for me. I'm kind of sad State's falling off.
It's really sad for me that I didn't know Flannel Sam in that at that time of the trouble with the snap.
Worst day of my life.
Was that the worst day of your life?
It was way up there. It was right up there. Oh man, and to your point, Anson, and to your point, Stick. I mean that kind of got recaptured a bit in 2021 when they were both very, very good. The Kenneth Walker year, and of course that year under Jim Harbaugh where they finally won the Big Ten championship. I think we recaptured the whole. They're both good for a year, but to when Michigan State was having their run from about 2010 to 2015, that was also the end of Rich Rod, the whole Hoke tenure, and then the first year of Harbaugh when Michigan was down pretty bad.
Yeah, but it wasn't just Michigan being down. They were going to the college football playoffs. The Michigan State was legit.
And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm not here to denigrate. I'm not here to denigrate Michigan State's run for that. I mean, especially in 2013. That was one of the best. That's the best Michigan State team I've ever seen. They were one of the most dominant Big Ten teams I've seen in the past 10, 15 years. 2015, they make the college football playoff. Michigan State was very, very good. It just happened to be during a time where Michigan is not so good, and it's kind of the inverse right now.
Yeah.
At least over the past, I don't know, since 2016, Michigan State has been pretty bad as a program, although 2017 and 21 were okay. But Michigan at least has been consistently a 10-win team, and now they're a Big Ten championship team, a college football playoff team. So they can never both have sustained success at the same time, if that makes sense.
I want that though.
I know you
love
do.
that though. Like I love the Kenneth Walker game when Michigan blew it at Michigan State. And that's where being a neutral fan, I get to just enjoy good football. Like wow. That was a great game. Wow. Look what I got to watch. Not my heart's broken or I'm happy or I can throw things in Sam's face because Michigan State did it.
Yeah.
But when the state is like that and we have two powerhouses in state, what are they, 60, 80 miles from each other?
Yeah.
It's a good time. It's a really good time, and that's what I hope we get back to. So I hope Michigan continues on their level of excellence, and I hope Michigan State gets back there soon.
Me too.
I bet so. You want to be able to throw some stuff at Sam.
The 8-0 game in East Lansing 2 years ago was an absolute treat. I mean, I was there.
We were there doing the pregame.
Yeah, I was there in 2000 when we won the national championship. I mean, weekend after weekend, going to Harper's and wherever to catch these games. And as wild as the city was during the Final Four, especially that final weekend of those games, it was nothing like East Lansing was when you had two undefeated schools. You had the whole state there, both sides, and everybody that just wanted to be there because they loved the state of Michigan. We need to return to that. I mean, what it would mean to both programs. It's better for Michigan when state's good. You know?
It's better for everybody. It's better for football. It's better for the state of Michigan. And as long as Ohio State isn't in the conversation, I am as happy as you can be. Because as much as I don't have a position with Michigan and Michigan State, I despise Ohio State. And it has nothing to do with my affiliation with either program. Just Ohio State is a bunch of clowns to me. Like, you want to talk about overvaluing what you are and overvaluing what you think you are and your perception? Those cheating bastards haven't done a damn thing in a long time. It's been, 3 calendar years since they beat Michigan?
That's
Dude, it's
fair.
Ohio.
Yeah, it's Ohio.
It's Ohio.
Like, Ohio's worse than Okemos when it comes to hot chicks. Let's just bring it around to that. Like, there's one hot chick in Okemos, there's one hot chick in Ohio. Maybe.
The whole state.
Maybe. And that's what happens when you inbreed. They're just not as sexy people. It's science, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't make this
This is the
up.
decade of science.
Yeah, you roll down to Ohio, you see kids with arms coming out of their chest. It's so they stumble out of their trailer. Like it's a very weird scene when you're driving to Cedar Point, which is the only thing that I love in Ohio.
It's
Is
the
Cedar Point.
only thing worthwhile down there.
And maybe the Football Hall of Fame. We'll go Canton Football Hall of Fame.
I get what you're saying, Stick, but I can't just discount Ohio State completely because Michigan has only just now started to turn the tide, and for a very, very long time, Ohio State was
There's
the big
kids
bad
in high
wolves.
school that have never experienced Ohio State beating Michigan.
Are you going to win?
They started as freshmen, now they're seniors. Think about that.
All right,
That's
but-
a big chunk of someone's life. It's been almost 3 years,
But
4
here's-
years since they beat them.
Here's where I have to have major self-awareness. From 2012 to 2020, Michigan never beat Ohio State. That's a pretty long stretch.
And
That's
they
great,
beat 'em
but I
3
can go
years
back
in
to
a
the
row?
80s where Michigan ran the table for 8 games too. That's in the past now. Like
Yeah.
that's if it was year 1 and you're having that, like, hey, we only won 1 of the past 12. Cool, I understand that. When we were up at the Michigan-Ohio State game at Michigan at the Little Brown Jug, we were doing the pregame up there. That was kind of the sentiment, right? Like, oh, they won, but it's the first time since this kid wasn't Pampers, you know? Now, that's the Ohio State version of this conversation. Like, man, it's been 4 years. Like, my kid started high school and he's graduated and we didn't beat Michigan. Think about that. There's kids who went through the whole program at Ohio State, never got to beat Michigan. It's awesome.
I'm not quite if Michigan wins this year, which I think they will, I think then we can start having those conversations.
You should never be comfortable playing Ohio State
3 in
and
a
assuming
row,
you're
eh?
going to beat them.
You
But
got-
the
yes.
fact of the matter is, not 3 in a row, 2 in a row, plus...
But he's confident they can do 3 in a row now.
Oh,
I'm confident they
I was
can
going
do
to say,
three in a
they,
row.
Because that's tough to beat a team in a rivalry like that 3 years in a row. They didn't play in 2020, obviously.
yeah, Michigan tapped out.
They did. They did.
Whatever. They
did.
didn't lose.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah, they
That's
did.
why you can say it's been 3 years since they lost to Ohio State, because they didn't play them 3 years ago.
Smart move.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, it was a smart
They
move.
would have gotten their doors blown
Yeah,
off
they would
that
have.
year. All right, final segment of the show coming up next, because we got to get ready. We're going to do a watch party here on Woodward Sports
bets
for the
too.
Michigan game, so make sure you're watching that starting at noon. Whole gaggle of dudes are here. I see Booner over there. I see Lucas. So they're going to be sitting in here. That's coming up at 11:30, I believe, right here on Woodward Sports. But we got one more segment, our Pick'em segment, coming up next right here on For the Love of College Football. Saturday mornings, football is here. NCAA. Let's go Michigan at noon. And we will cover those games coming up next.
Have you ever argued with your little brother? How about some random guy you're stuck in a room with for an hour? Flannel Sam and Spencer Raxter are at each other's throats. One Spartan alumni and one Walmart Wolverine are locked in a room with nowhere to hide. You're welcome. Whether it's go blue or go green, you can go to woodwardsports.com for all the action. Coming soon to a device near you. Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com. Winners, losers, pushes and draws, over-unders, prop bets, futures and spreads. Are you sick and tired of your picks being losers? Do you want to learn how to bet like a champion? Well, Woodward Sports searched the globe for the most dangerous man with a bet slip in his hand and gave him a show. Coming soon to Woodward Sports. Tune in every weekend as we introduce the greatest gambler to ever walk the earth.
Hi, I'm Booner, and I don't lose.
Good morning to you. Thank you for waking up with For the Love of College Football. It's our new show here on Woodward Sports every Saturday morning at 8:30. We're going to cover all the games, talk Michigan State, Central, Western. You know what? We should talk Ferris State too, since they be winning some of those Division II natties.
Hey, let's give them all their love.
Yeah, they should.
They have been dominant.
Albion, Grand Valley,
Albion.
Yeah, let's show them all some love.
Alma. Do they have a football team?
I think Alma does have a football team.
Go.
Yeah. How are they, Parker? Are they good? No. Who's we? Where did you go to school?
I went to Olivet College. Well,
Okay.
the University
Olivet.
of Olivet now.
Okay, nice.
So we didn't really. Yeah, I'm not gonna shit.
That's all
I'm
right.
not gonna
U
shit
of
on 'em.
D doesn't even have a football team. University of Detroit, where I went, they sold their football team I think in the 80s and built a building. Yeah. So they got rid of. Then they also got rid of their baseball
do you
program
s-
after I left too.
How does a college football team sell their team?
I don't know. That's just what I was told when we were on campus. Yeah, we used to have a football team, but think of how sweet. Besides Wayne State, which is Division II, imagine having a D1 football school in city limits of Detroit.
That'd be
That would be
crazy.
so amazing.
Can we call them the Tartars again?
That's Wayne State, the Tartars.
Oh, you're talking about
Yeah, UAD's the Titans, baby. Don't you
Yeah.
disrespect Tommy the Titan.
My apologies.
Rashad Phillips, what's up?
Oh man, he was so fun.
All eyes on three.
He
Let's
was
go.
so fun.
Oh, such a great basketball
Wow.
commentator too. Now he's turned into the
Great
basketball
flashback.
Yoda. Either way, let's get into our final predictions, and then let's do way too early predictions for the college football playoffs. Then we'll get into our final numbers for the Michigan game today and give our prediction on that. Sam, who are your final four that are going to be fighting it out for the college football national championship?
Ooh, I like those odds right there. I got Michigan, of course, as one of my college football playoff teams. I said it many, many times in the show. I think they win the national championship, and they're one of the most talented returning teams, and you got to start somewhere by making it to the college football playoff. Again, that's a given. I also have Georgia, because Georgia is one of those teams right now you can just never count out. And despite the fact that they've lost a lot of NFL talent the last couple years, like 8 first-round draft picks in the last 2 years, they still, I was looking on ESPN, they have five preseason All-Americans. They don't rebuild, they reload. I think Georgia makes it. I would also go with Alabama for this one, and here's why. I think Alabama is actually is as a team worse than last year, but their schedule is just so favorable. All of their toughest games are at home. They play Texas at home, Tennessee at home, and LSU at home, which I think will be a swing game in terms of who makes it. I got Alabama, and as my last college football playoff pick, this might be a little bit of a sleeper. I am going with Parker, Florida State. I'm going with Florida State for this one.
Sleeping on 'em.
I think they beat LSU today. I think their schedule lines up very, very favorably. They have one of the best defensive players in the country in Jared Verse. They have one of the best quarterbacks, Jordan Travis, who is also on the 10-year plan. And their schedule in the ACC, they got a tough game against LSU to open the year. They have at Clemson. Every other game they will be favored. I think they will be a one-loss team. So to reiterate, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Florida State.
Man, I'm watching this hype video right now that Fox is playing of Deion Sanders, and I'm gonna take Colorado in the national championship.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. Anson, who you guys your final four?
You know, I actually really like that FSU call between Johnny Wilson, Jaheim Bell, Trey Benson. They have one of the best offenses. They're really, really good. I don't know how good their defense is going to be. You brought up Verse, the guy's a stud. I don't think it's going to be enough for them coming out of that conference to be able to get into the playoffs. I think it's going to be the top four you're staring at right there. I think you're going to see 2 conferences represented, unfortunately, once again, with the SEC and the Big Ten. If some dark horse can get in there like TCU did last year, it makes everything a little bit more interesting. I hate to say it, but I think Georgia takes 3 in a row. I think that Michigan probably gets there to face them, but they just haven't gotten out of that first round game to understand what it takes to win the national championship.
Yeah,
Hope not.
hope not. But you have Michigan going there, right?
I do, man. They've
Okay.
really got a phenomenal team on both sides of the ball.
Proud of you, Anson. I'm proud of you in this moment right now. Good job.
I can be a fan, but I can't be an idiot.
Yeah. All right.
Talking about a dark horse, that's where I'm going to lead this one off with Utah. I like
love
Cameron
it.
Rising,
Love it.
and from
Love
what we've
it.
seen, he is the USC killer. That defense is phenomenal. I think they surprise a lot of people this year. And then the 3 above that are pretty much chalk. It's going to be Michigan and OSU. I think one of them ends the season with 1 loss. One of them's undefeated going into that college football playoff. And then Georgia, they run it back, going for that 3-peat.
All right, Parker, you got your 4.
Okay. So we're going to start it off pretty easy. I think Michigan is a pretty safe bet to be in there. I don't think Ohio State's beating Michigan this year. I think that's a guaranteed odd. A little dark horse, but Clemson coming out of there. I think Clemson is a team that we haven't really heard about in the past. Probably like last year, didn't really hear about them. Ever since Trevor Lawrence left, not really a team that people have been keeping their eyes on. I think that's a team that's kind of back up on the rise, kind of like the Phoenix from the ashes type vibe. I think Georgia will probably make it. I think they're going to be the team that come out of the SEC. But I think I have to go with my LSU Tigers. I think they're going to be the fourth and last team to be in there, but I think those are my four. It would be Michigan, LSU, Clemson, and Georgia.
It could happen. None of these predictions are too far off to where I'm like, you're stupid. I mean, Utah's probably the only thing I'm like, that's a reach, but still, it could happen. My final four. Bama, because I don't see them missing out on championships for this long. Saban's going to rebuild. He's going to retool. They're going to be back there. U of M, we could just write that up now. I think because of their schedule, they really only have one and a half real games on their schedule.
Two.
Huh?
I think Penn State's going to be tough.
I give Penn State a half game. We discussed earlier how they, Franklin doesn't really show up for big games. I know it's at Happy Valley and all that crap, but whatever. The whiteout. Here's my ones that we can debate. Texas. Ooh. I could see Texas sneaking their way in this year. It's been a long time since the NCAA has been represented by the great state of Texas, besides TCU. I don't really count them as Texas, but you know what I mean. Like their main state programs. Yeah. And then USC. Throw USC in the mix. I know it's going to be tough to have two from the same conference, but if Michigan and Ohio State can do it, why not? USC, Caleb Williams returning. I'm a big fan of his, like over-the-top fan of his. That's who I wanted the Lions to target last year, knowing that he couldn't come out, but just like, let's be patient, maybe get this guy next year in the draft. But Caleb Williams is my guy. I see him leading USC into the Final Four.
Ooh, wow. Caleb Williams, to your credit, is one of the best quarterbacks to me on planet Earth right now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking every quarterback, including NFL ones. I think he could jump in whenever when he becomes drafted.
On the Mahomes scale, where is he? Because I know he's your apex.
I would say Caleb Williams right now is a top 15 quarterback on planet Earth. And that's saying something for a college player.
How does he compare to your favorite, though, Danny Dimes? That's what I want to know.
I don't like Danny Dimes. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. Caleb Williams is eons better throwing the football than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I know this is a college football show, but Daniel Jones threw 15 touchdown passes last year. I have very little respect for what he did.
He is no Patty Pennies.
They went to the playoffs. I'm a DJ. I'm not a DJ like super fan, but I think he's more talented than a lot of people give him credit for.
But I would also say that he played in an offense that was
Vanilla Vic.
Dude,
Patty Pennies, baby.
They actually utilized his ability running the ball last year.
Yeah.
He's one of the better running quarterbacks in the NFL.
Vanilla Vic?
That's actually very fair.
I know he hates him. I had to drop it.
What a great nickname, though. Not only does he have a great nickname, to me, he's the poor man's Josh Allen. That's exactly what he is.
That's fair. That's fair.
And I think Josh Allen's a pretty damn good quarterback.
Yes, he is.
Caleb Williams is going to be absolutely fun at the next level. Will he be Patty Pennies? I don't know. No. But he absolutely is the guy that can take him and knock him off of the mantle as the best quarterback in the NFL.
All right, well, let's get into our final predictions for the Michigan game today. Sam, what do you think the final score will be, and who do you think will have a big day for Michigan?
I would say Michigan 49, Eastern Carolina 7. I will go with that. It's going to be 49-7. I think it's going to start off right off the bat with Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum just running all over them. I think they will open up the offense a little bit just when they already have a bit of a lead, or maybe they'll even establish the pass before they get to the run. I don't think they're just going to let J.J. McCarthy hand the ball off 40 times. I think he'll get some use, and I want to see how some of the 4-star recruits that they brought in, if they get some playing time, some usage, or maybe even a backup running back or two, like a CJ Stokes or even freshman Cole Cabana. I think everybody eats this game, including some of the backups, but I don't really predict a huge day for anyone besides Corum and Edwards when it comes to individual stats, because everybody will get the lion's share because the backups will be in the game midway through the third quarter.
So you don't like them to cover?
40. Wait, is the points?
36 and a half.
36. Yeah, 49-7.
Oh,
You said 49. I thought you said 44.
49-7.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I thought you
40.
said 40. Okay.
I thought you said
43 to 7 is what I heard.
Okay. Anson, what do you think the final score is going to be today?
It's going to be gross. It's going to be gross.
It's going to be gross.
I think it's a 45-10 game, which just allows Carolina to cover, or for Michigan to not cover. I think it'll be slightly under. Actually, no, that's over, isn't it? 45-10. They're going to blow them out. It's going to be ugly, but I do think that Michigan could end up not scoring quite as many points as we think. So let me bring that back to 40-10, which brings me underneath
All right,
that
Nick,
cover.
what do you got?
Over.
I got 48-3, and 48 comes with 2 field goals, which is the only question mark, or one of very few for Michigan this year with Moody gone. I bet they'd let the new kicker get a little bit of run.
Tommy Dolman's their new kicker, right?
The guy from Louisville, or where?
Did they get a transfer?
Yeah, they did get a transfer.
I think Tommy's their punter. Tommy.
Yeah,
is
so
their
I got
punter.
48-3. They cover the
Orchard Lake
spread.
St. Mary's. All right, cool. What do you got, Parker?
I think it's gonna be a rough one. I don't even think ECU is gonna even get a touchdown today. I think it's gonna be probably 2 field goals with a 45-6 score at the end of the game.
All right. Well, my final prediction for that game: 54-3.
Ooh,
54-3 is where I got them
I just
going.
feel like they always put in their freshmen in the last 5 minutes, and that's
where
when
that
the
3 points
terrible
is gonna
team
come
gets
in.
that final touchdown, you know?
Yeah, but I think that's where they're going to get their final field goal. I think it's going to, like, they're not going to be able to get the ball past the 50-yard line. And if they do, that's a loss for Michigan. I think it's going to be rough sledding for East Carolina. I could be wrong. That's why we play the games. They're on the schedule for a reason. We experienced this with Appalachian State. I know that's like blasphemy to say that name, but it's happened before in the big house, right?
It happened.
So you can't come in there thinking you're just going to stomp these guys. I can think that, but if you're playing for them, you cannot think that. You got to think you're playing Ohio State today.
What a fun day that was.
That was an interesting day. I was at a tailgate with a bunch of Michigan fans, and my God, it was it was very odd watching the people respond to that, because it was disbelief and anger mixed in together, and it turned into binge drinking very fast. Very fast.
I can imagine.
Well, you guys have a great day. Make sure you tune back in for the live watch party. Booner is in here. Gentry is all Michigan out. Lucas is in here. Parker, are you sticking around for that?
Yeah, I'll be here for the watch party for a little bit.
Nick, you sticking around for that?
I think I'll be here for a little bit as well.
Sam?
The whole damn game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it. I love that Sam lives here now. Anson, I know you're not sticking around with that. You got some work to do today, as well as I do after this show. But
My team played yesterday, baby.
yeah, that's right. But thank you guys for being a part of the first ever For the Love of College Football right here on Woodward Sports. My name is Stick, for Flannel Sam, for Anson, Nick, and Parker. We will see you next week. I believe Spencer Raxter is on the desk
Spencer
next week.
Raxter, yep.
All right, me and Spencer.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
That will be fun. We're going to be slamming 40s at 8:30 in the morning. It's going to be amazing. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great day. Go Blue!
Go Blue.
Go green.
Are you a diehard college football fan? Well, it's your lucky day. Join special WSN guests like Spencer Raxter, Flannel Sam, and more every Saturday. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Saturdays and tune in live from 8:30 to 10 a.m.